Built by a man knighted for his work in developing South African business and industry, this house has been home to notable families, Dominican monks, and now to Lawson Ricketts and his partner from New York. They came to this country on a 12-month assignment and have now made it their home.
Lawson, this definitely puts the grand in grand entrance.
I know. It is pretty grand when you come up to this house. It didn't look like this when we first bought it.
Now, I believe that this house is over 100 years old.
It is, and there's a lot of history to it. In fact, it's a national monument. The house was built in 1910 by Sir Thomas Cullinan, who was a master builder, prior to him finding the world's largest diamond. They say it's the only Art Nouveau house left in Johannesburg. The house is also made of glazed bricks that Sir Thomas Cullinan glazed at his refractory and brought to the house to use in the building process.
So if we go inside, will we find the Cullinan diamond?
Gosh, I wish.
The exteriors couldn't be altered, but the interiors have been masterfully reinterpreted.
From a grand entrance to a grand staircase.
Well, this is very dramatic.
Yes, and I wanted to make it as dramatic as possible. So, with the existing green original tiles from 1910 that are still intact, I wanted to make those a prominent feature of the entrance hall. And so we painted the ceilings and the walls red to really give it that juxtaposition of color.
I see that you've continued the drama with the chandelier.
I sourced all of the light fittings from factories in Cape Town, where we went through, kind of found old vintage light fittings that might have needed a little bit of repair, and we repaired them and put them all up. You'll see them throughout the house as well.
Seems like you love a fixer-upper.
I really do, from a house to a light fitting.
Well, the look and feel of your foyer looks like it continues into that area over there. I'd love to see that room.
Cool, come on through.
This is gorgeous. I feel like I'm being transported back to colonial time.
Good, that's exactly what we want. Being an American in South Africa, that's everyone's fantasy, is to make it feel like you're out of Africa. In terms of decor, we put a wallpaper on the wall. I love wallpaper and I love using it in all of the spaces you'll see throughout the house. On top of the wallpaper, you'll also see vintage maps. My husband and I love maps, and so what we did is we took two places that we've lived previously, enlarged them and put them on the wall. It really accents the wallpaper.
Now this is an incredibly interesting desk. It looks just like luggage.
It's a reproduction of an old steamer trunk from a man who came from America to South Africa, which is exactly what we did. I saw it in New York and said I had to have it for this particular space.
Any changes have been done in the spirit of the original design.
So this is the entertainment area of the house. This is the bar, where we entertain a lot. It's a great place to be with an open fire and a drink in hand to end the day with our dogs at our feet. And then this is the dining room.
If I close my eyes, I can imagine that this is a place where Mr. Gatsby would have himself a roaring 1920s shindig.
Yes, it certainly could be. This was actually the original front door. This is where all the service deliveries and the visitors would come and greet the family. The major focus of the dining room is the dining room table. It was given as an anniversary gift, made in India and brought here. I absolutely love it and based everything else in the dining room around it. The last thing to give it a little bit of bling in this room and make it a little Gatsby-esque is to put smoky beveled mirrors in every single inset of the dining room. The mirror guy was not my friend at the end, as every single square is a different size. He had to cut and recut and cut again to make sure that every single one would fit.
I can imagine that it's because the house is so old that nothing is symmetrical.
Correct, and probably over time, some things have also gotten a little out of whack.
They imported brass door, light, and window fittings from the United States and brought some of their own traditions with them.
Now this feels really homely.
Yes, definitely. This is my favorite area of the house. In America, we call this type of space a den, where people can come in after dinner, watch TV, hang out, let their hair down after a long day, and of course sit by a fire.
So these are the original tiles that you mentioned in the entrance hall?
These are the original tiles to the house that Sir Thomas Cullinan made in his refractory. They're all throughout all the fireplaces and embedded in, and we're so lucky that they're still here 105 years later.
And that is such a quaint painting of your house.
I know, isn't it? It was commissioned by my family when we had our wedding here in this house as a remembrance of that day. The artist who did it in America absolutely loved painting a South African historic house.
Well, I've really enjoyed seeing your living area, but what is living without eating? I want to see this kitchen.
Absolutely, let's go and see.
The 1950s ceramic heater is beautifully framed.
This exposed brick is absolutely amazing.
When we first bought the house and we were doing the renovation, it was an old country kitchen with pine and rooster tiles everywhere. What we decided to do is take all the tiles off, and we were going to plaster over. When we came in and saw this beautiful exposed brick, I said, we must keep this so that we have this high-low between the modern and the old brick of the kitchen.
And that ceiling makes quite the statement.
This is an original press ceiling to the house, and there's press ceilings all throughout the upstairs. This is the only room on the downstairs, and so I wanted to make it a little bit different and also give it a little bit of a modern feel.
The ultimate endorsement was the day a stranger arrived who had grown up here in the 1940s. Shown the changes, their visitor was amazed at how the house had been returned to something even better than when he lived in it and when everyone shared just one bathroom.
There seems to be quite a striking difference up here as opposed to downstairs. This is very modern.
Yeah, so upstairs has a more modern, minimalistic feel. So we did dark on the walls and light on the ceiling to give these very, very high ceilings even more height. What's interesting is this house only had one bathroom. So, from this master bedroom, we converted the nanny's room and the child's room that was originally attached into our bathroom.
For a couple familiar with summers in London, being able to entertain outdoors for 8 months of the year was a revelation.
How did you approach the landscaping of the formal garden?
The property used to have quite a few other pieces of land, and so when we were excavating the garden and taking out 17 trees, we found this retaining wall, and so we decided to base that as the feature for outside in the back. So we built the retaining wall and then planted roses behind it so it looked like roses were coming up from the wall.
And the drama continues in the form of your water feature.
That's right. The fountain was actually original to the house, and they incorporated the fountain into the pool in the 1950s when they actually put in this rather large pool.
And what is the best part about living in South Africa?
That's a great question. I love the people of South Africa. They're so friendly, they're so warm and welcoming. I remember my first few weeks here, we were invited to everyone's house for dinner, for tea, for everything. They're just the nicest people, and you can never discount this beautiful African sunshine.
I completely agree. Let's cheers to warm, sunny winter days.
Cheers.
Here's to Cullinan House always being home to the welcoming spirit of Africa.